Hello and welcome back to Down the Slope. We've changed it up this week. Unfortunately, Hibs haven't changed it up very much, and we are all absolutely battered after Hibs took a bit of a pumping yesterday. But we have a full house. Harry is not hosting this week, and I'm also joined by Craig and Liam. How are you doing, Harry?
Yeah, no, I'm not. I was going to say I'm good, mate, but we all know the rules. If Hibs are good, Harry's good, and if Hibs aren't good, and we're very far from it. So I suppose I'm very far from it as well, mate.
Mm. Liam, Craig, obviously, I've spent some of the day with you guys yesterday. Harry was obviously unavailable in mainland Europe. Liam, you did sort of predict it. You were dreading a drive back along before kickoff yesterday. Was it as bad as what you thought?
Uh, it was just like, do you know what? I was saying this to one of my mates yesterday. It was just the perfect bookmark to what's been a really good summer. I've had an amazing summer, and the sort of the signalling of the end of the return or the end of summer for me was the return of Hibs to league action, and it's just this perfectly just brought it all to a lovely sour note, and it's just exactly as many of us predicted.
Craig, you're all good on your end?
Yeah, just try to gather the thoughts after yesterday, try to stay calm. But on a bright note, the traffic going was glorious. The traffic leaving, I got a 5 to 10 minute head start coming out the ground thanks to Hibs. So that's my positive note.
I uh, I got home from Paisley quicker than what I got home from Easter Road, which was I don't know if that should or shouldn't surprise me given my location. I'm not entirely sure. Easter Road's just a bit awkward with not being anywhere near the motorway. Anyway,
Right, we've had enough traffic
hi.
updates for you for one day, Ewan. Let's move on.
uh, where do you want to begin? I think the first thing to say is thank you very much to all the people on Twitter that have sent us in a million and one wide-ranging topics of conversation. I think we would have all seen it last night when you log into Twitter, Hibs.net, Facebook, whatever, whatever you do in your spare time to get your Hibs content, that there was a sort of swell of emotion last night, more towards the board and CEO and owner than necessarily the first team and the manager. Um, Harry, I'll come to you first. What are just your general thoughts just now on the sort of senior leaders at the club, sort of above the playing side of things?
It's mainly apathy, to be fair. I think it's one of the first times I was going about my day, obviously traveling to mainland Europe, and it's always a different feel when you're going to the game. But there was no excitement for me personally for the season starting. As I mentioned on last week's pod, I do think that we're quite a few signings away. I was hoping that during the week, we'd get a few. I know we got Kukurevich over the line, but Kukurevich is a good player, and I'm happy that he's at the club again. But it doesn't feel like a forward step. That's a player that's been a reject at another club, and we're not even getting him as a permanent player for us. So that and then that being a trust the process moment, it just feels a bit pathetic. I'm not going to talk about the main culprit that I think is probably at the top of the minds because I think that Liam will probably do more justice on what I'm feeling and be able to express that better than I can. But also, they've got a golden quadrant that they're all showing off, and Malcolm Mackay's part of that. I'm not allowed to hate him because apparently I'm biased against him. But so far, he signed 5 players, and uh, most of them looked pretty bad yesterday. I think Ekpiteta, that was scary. He's looked pretty solid through preseason. Yesterday didn't look good. I like Bursic. I'm a fan of him. I think he's pretty nailed on the head. But yeah, the club feels like a mess, and just with the fixtures coming up, it's just a bit scary to be honest. If we get 3 or 4 players over the line, it's probably going to be like a month at least until we can string 2 wins together. If we're being really optimistic, so yeah, it just doesn't feel like we're going to have a positive start to the season at this point.
Craig, I'll the same question to you. Obviously, the three of us, Liam wasn't with us last week. We shared varying degrees of optimism and concern, going into the new season. And I think the word you used was twitchy, and a little bit uneasy with the sort of where the squad was ahead of yesterday's game. Like, I take it that didn't do anything to settle the nerves, and
Done the opposite, to be fair,
yeah,
obviously. Uh, I, as you say, we were twitchy last week. Uh, and I think one of the main concerns was obviously the squad depth, and I think that kind of came came true yesterday because first half we're kind of in the game, and then you're looking to your bench for a wee impact, and it just seemed like we didn't have much to
yeah.
come in. I think that kind of speaks for the recruitment so far. I'm not going to say too little, too late because that might still work out in terms of the overall season, but to give yourself a pretty massive task to get this this squad together when we're already in the season is a pretty poor effort so far.
And do you sort of echo the general, or certainly, nobody can speak for the entire fan base, but the general feeling around the place seems to be of more frustration with those higher up than any like directed at David Gray? Is that sort of where you are as well? Sort of failings above the manager or head coach who's left us where we are.
Absolutely. To be fair, I was kind of that position 2 manager appointments ago. To be honest, I don't feel like that's just something that's sprung out of nowhere recently over the summer or anything. Like the failings have always been, or not always, but recently for me have been higher up the food chain than the manager. I don't think you can go through so many managers and keep saying, oh, it's a manager's fault. That's not saying that the managers that we've had haven't made mistakes and haven't been at fault for certain things. But overall, I think everybody's maybe probably seeing now that it's definitely the issues at Hibs are higher up.
Yeah. Liam, a couple of weeks ago there was a sort of swell of frustration directed towards the board after the Celtic game, and we didn't really. I don't think we really spoke about it. We didn't. I don't think we recorded that week, and then it wasn't really relevant by the time we came on last week. But again, this week that is back where we're at. You've raised concerns numerous occasions. Over the last 18 months to 2 years, probably. It sort of springs to mind for me the back-to-back derby defeats at Lee Johnson was maybe sort of a tipping point for yourself. Where are you now with those in charge of the club?
I'm kind of in the same place I've always been, and I don't really think that this group is the group that's going to take the club forward. And I think collectively it's very difficult when you're not on the inside to know exactly what the sort of point of failure is. But this group, this cohort of people, this quadrant, if I can call them that, the certainly 3 of them who've been in role for a while, but 2 of them in particular, in Kensell and Ian Gordon, have demonstrated time and again that they're not competent at running a football club. And I've snapped back a few times at people when they've talked about commercial success because, yes, club control income has grown year on year, but I don't think it will have grown for the past year because our sporting performance has been so poor. So you can grow your income as much as you like, but if the team that you're putting on the park isn't getting results, the income will suffer eventually. Eventually, fans will stop paying for the product, and we're starting to see that. They can't sell out this behind the goals initiative that they've launched because, frankly, people don't want to go and watch a bottom 6 football club and pay an additional premium on top of what's already quite an expensive season ticket to go and watch, pretty poor standard of football where we kind of know already this season. I mean, it's difficult because there's 37 league games to go, so I don't want to be really reactive. But if nothing changes between now and the end of the window, and I mean nothing drastic, we're looking at another season of bottom 6 football realistically. And who's wanting to pay £800
Yeah,
the
of course.
privilege
Yeah.
of watching bottom 6 football? More than
Aye.
40 quid a game. It's just things like that. I mean, decisions like that. Ultimately, everything has to be working. As a CEO, you're accountable for everything. You're not just accountable for income being in a good place. You're accountable for a whole of different measures, and he's never been performing on every area of the scorecard in terms of as a CEO. There's been aspects that have been okay, but there's been a lot of aspects that have been miles short of where we need to be.
I think, yeah, I think you could probably go. You can certainly find the positives in Ben Kensell's tenure around the club is probably worth more now than when he came in. How much of that did he influence? With the hospitality and stuff. Because obviously Ron Gordon that was absolutely his vision. When he sort of bought the club, that was quite clear that that's what he wanted to do. But ultimately, when Kensell came in, and as fans, you're going to base it off of what you see on the pitch. I mean, chuck into the fact we operated at massive losses in our last financial year anyway. So that's not exactly a golden report anyway. But he took over as CEO in the middle of a summer, where the club had just finished third and reached the semi-final of both cup competitions and the final of the other. And since then, in his 3 full seasons as CEO, we finished in the bottom 6 twice and sort of scraped our way into the top 6 and then managed to muck up on finishing 4th in the other one. It isn't exactly it's not a great record, is it? It's not good at all. And then look, LinkedIn is LinkedIn. It's full of stupid, business cliche nonsense. But when your CEO's putting out the day before the opening game of the season about trusting the process, when the fan base are entirely, sorry, not entirely, but a vast majority of the fan base are dissatisfied with what's happened in that window so far, it just leaves a pretty sour taste in the mouth, and it's not reading the room, Harry, at all, is it? Like, what process are we trusting here?
And just on Kensell and what he says, there's like, I think part of the reason there's so much frustration is he's the one that like kind of got positioned as the guy that spearheaded the move with the Knights coming in with Bill Foley and his investment. He's the one that's quoted in the press happily saying, "Don't worry, there's going to be cash to spend this summer." We've made 5 signings and we've not spent a penny. Like we've not spent anything. It's ridiculous. Like, see, the thing is, if he just kind of quietly goes about his business and doesn't put himself out there as a public figure, Hibs fans would dislike him less than a lot of fans are. But it's the fact that he puts himself out there and he says all these big, massive, audacious things that Hibs are going to do. And then when we don't do them, that's when everybody's like, what's this idiot doing? And then I don't know if he's any part of it, but this golden quadrant thing, like, it's a newly assembled team that doesn't have any, like, golden's supposed to be like premium standard. They've not done anything. It's just mental. It's embarrassing for the club. And yeah, sorry, Liam, you're going.
Do you want me to
just purely from a PR perspective? Like,
Yeah.
Harry works in PR. Like, if you're going to attach the word golden to anything, there needs to be some track record of success. Like, there's no track record of success at that for, primarily because they've not been in role for long enough. But also, even if you take the individual parts out of it, then there's no real track record of success there at all. You know, you can talk of within the last 10 years. Malky Mackay's achievement was, as a manager, getting Ross County into the top 6 one year, then almost getting them relegated the following season. You know, it's not exactly a glowing report card of a guy who's a sporting director. I just think the whole thing that's starting to bug me is, I think Kensell's happy to communicate, but he'll do that with the mediums, which, let's be honest, he's kind of hiding. He's not doing the sort of sit downs with the media that he was doing when he very first came into role. He's actually taking a very different stance, and he seemed to be covertly communicating things through the likes of the End Evening News rather than having front up conversations. And I'm not talking about a softball interview on Hibs TV here, by the way, because to be honest, it'll be softball questions and softball answers. Like, we need a proper conversation where our CEO or our owner or our non-executive chairman actually come forward and explain what the plan is here and what this process is that we're meant to trust. Because I think, as far as all of us are concerned, there's been a process. We scrapped it. We've got a new process. We probably scrapped that one, and we're now on probably the third or fourth iteration of a new process. There doesn't really appear to be a strategy. We seem to bounce from one strategy to the next without any real coherent plan and no direction. We are utterly directionless as a football club.
I think, like, what you were saying earlier reminded me, what we didn't reference a couple of weeks ago was Bill Foley's comments, and then the article that then came in out in the Evening News around the not listening and then the appointment of David Gray at the time. Now, whilst we're on the sort of subject of the Black Knights, and Harry, you did touch on it, I think it's worthwhile, maybe for those that haven't seen the quote or whatever, but when the Black Knights investment was announced, so speaking in February 2024 to the Edinburgh Inquirer, Ben Kensell said, "There will also be significant funds available to football, have no doubt about that." He cited Emiliano Marcondes as an example. "This is a talented player on Premier League wages which we could never afford, and we are getting him for a modest contribution that falls well within our wage structure. The multi-club model allows us to access talent we simply couldn't bring here otherwise. Supporters need to rest assured that we don't intend to build a team of lone players, and in any event, the rules don't allow it. But we will be collaborating with others to bring good players here to look at best practice, etc., etc." Of the 5 players that we've signed this summer, 4 of them you would say are intended to be starting 11 players. 2 of them were released from League One and League Two sides in England, and the other 2 are on loan. So 50% of the players that are intended to start and contribute are loan players, which is a contradiction there. And as for players we couldn't attract otherwise, forgive me if I think that Hibs, maybe I've got an idea of how big Hibs are, but a released MK Dons player, a released Blackpool player, a loan from Swansea who was previously at their club, and a loan from Cercle from Belgium, who on a young goalkeeper. They don't seem to me like a pedigree of players that Hibs couldn't sign 7 years ago.
I agree, and I know where you're going with that. It's that sort of rhetoric. But I mean, ultimately, the best player in the park yesterday was a guy that St Mirren signed on loan for Shrewsbury Town. So, like the club that they've come from, in some respects, is irrelevant
It's irrelevant
if
if
they're
your
the
owner
best player.
doesn't say you're going to be attracting a higher caliber of player than you have historically, though. It's
I-
not
Can I
to
just
say that
say,
these
when
players are bad players that we've signed, but don't say that we're going to be able, this investment and this, there's going to be funds available, and you're going to be able to bring in a standard of player that we ultimately saying we're going to be shopping in a different pond potentially. When we're not, like, I'm not saying these players are bad. I think they will. I actually think they will prove to be pretty decent additions, but I don't see any reason that Hibs couldn't have signed the former captain of Milton Keynes Dons 5 years ago.
Yeah, and I agree, but I think all I would say to that is the previous club of a player is not the only thing that dictates their caliber. A lot more into it than just the club that you played for. So, and it might turn out to be that these guys are all duds, right? But actually, it'll be a lot more than just their previous club, which is the deciding factor. It might all go on to be that they're all rip-roaring successes.
Of course.
I mean, I know, but I know where you're coming from, because I think ultimately where we're at is we're in a place where we were sort of promised something, and then what we've been delivered, it feels at this point in time after one league game, we've been delivered something that's way underbaked.
I don't know who the first person to make the meme was of The Office, but as Ewan was reading the quote from Ben Kensell, I could literally just see him sitting there. It was like his mid-year review, because obviously we're 6 months on. I could just imagine like Michael Scott sitting there like, whilst his quote gets read out, and everything that he said just gets thrown in his face as that is fucking nonsense. Because literally every single thing he mentioned in that interview, nothing of the sort has happened. Mental.
Jink Kensell's got a world's best boss mug on his desk.
Look,
Who's his Dwight Schrute? Ian Gordon.
I just want to make it clear that it's not an attack on any of the players, and I said as much yesterday to you guys. I'm not really on the back of yesterday interested in calling any individuals out. I think if we were to divert onto the game, collectively we were good for 45 minutes, and collectively we were shite for 45 minutes. Like, I thought, Harry, you make a face. I thought we were the better side in the first half, personally.
Well, as I always say, Ewan, you're entitled to be wrong. That's I thought the first. Sorry for going tactical there, but just to justify the face. First half, St Mirren refused to play the ball. They kept on trying to get in behind, and a couple of times they got really good chances out of it. Then second half, they played the ball on the deck, played like football. We couldn't get anywhere near them. And then what's the boy's name that was really good for them? The one that scored the first goal. I thought he was unbelievable. By the way, you're muted. By the way,
Idowu, that's the boy they've got on loan for Shrewsbury Town. I mean, he was decent yesterday. But I think, to be honest, Nathan Mariah Welsh just needs to do a lot better in that situation.
And Martin Boyle just track them.
If your best asset is what you bring off the ball, you can't be just getting beat like that.
Anyway, we digress. Let's get back to moaning about the ownership and the CEO and all that. That's the good stuff now. Harry mentioned a mid-year review, Liam. Where is the results of Hibs' end of season review?
The results the internal review thing. Yeah. I mean, I'm remind me of the timings. So we said we were going to do an internal review
towards the end of April, I think.
Was that when we gave sort of Nick Montgomery that pseudo ultimatum? So that was the most recent example of them throwing a previous manager under the bus. And then, so they basically told Montgomery, you've got an X number of games to save your job. They didn't say that, but that's what they were saying. And then they published the results of the review when they hired Malky Mackay, or they told us it was concluded when they hired Malky Mackay. Am I right in that thing?
I don't think I might be wrong, and Craig or Harry, I don't think we've ever seen the results of it.
So we've not seen the results, but I think they maybe said in the Mackay statement, I might be wrong,
but
that was concluded, the review was concluded, and clearly Mackay was the output of the review. So the whole thing that we were missing the whole time was just the chairman's pal. No, I mean, it sounds like it was a really robust review. It sounds really robust. I mean, I think what would be amazing as a transparent football club who love to communicate with their supporters is they could just share some of the details and some of the findings beyond hire the chairman's mate. That would be really interesting for us to all be able to digest that. Because frankly, from my perspective, I wouldn't trust this lot to mark their own homework. So if it was the Black Knights that conducted the review, I think it would be interesting to see potentially where where the discrepancies were between the Black Knights review and actually what the club inputted or what they decided on. Because for me, the review it's becoming a bit of a myth, isn't it?
Yeah. Craig, what's your take on that sort of the review piece and that? Obviously, at the time, you weren't. We're all aware of where you're at with it, but you weren't on pod at the time. If you want to share your opinions on all things Hibs review and upstairs business.
Just all seems a bit of a joke, really, to be honest, doesn't it? The communication is so selective, and it seemed particularly Kensell. Liam was saying earlier he likes to communicate, but I was going to jump on it and say he only communicates when he's got something that he feels is positive to communicate. When there's anything negative, it's silence. Has he ever actually, other than maybe after a manager's been sacked or when we've appointed a new one, actually come out and sort of faced anything up? I don't know if he has. Certainly not enough anyway. So, selective communication. This process just seems to have evaporated into nothing. It's really worrying, the stuff that came out in the media with the Black Knights and Bill Foley. When they don't really seem like they're getting on. There doesn't seem like there's much of a working relationship developing there. You know, I know a lot of people had different opinions on that, but if you put yourself in the shoes of Bill Foley, you've just invested £6 million into a club, and it's an absolute clown show, a circus at the top of the club. I understand why you would be concerned in coming out and voicing opinions, because it's a lot of money to chuck down the toilet. It might be that way if things kind of continue. That's what it's kind of looking like at the moment. But at the same time, maybe a bit distasteful to throw Gray under the bus. But I think that whole scenario just speaks to the level of just nonsense that is behind the scenes at Hibs at the moment at the top level.
It's probably worth pointing out as well that Bill Foley didn't name David Gray. There was an article that was released in the Evening News that confirmed that. So whether that, I'd be surprised if Bill Foley had the contacts in the Evening News sports department to leak that story.
Is it not rumoured to be a leak from Hibs?
Exactly. I was trying to just be discreet.
I think we all know where that came from.
Harry, I know you've got some thoughts.
So I've actually got some positivity.
Fuck off.
I've not let you guys know because I'm not going to reveal the findings, and I'm sorry to long bangers and Hibs ramble, but I've done a independent review on all the Hibs podcasts, and we're the biggest and we're the best. We're fucking massive. You're never going to see the results of this review, but I can tell you it was really in depth, really thorough, and down the slope is king. So cheers, guys. When Hibs release their one, I'll release our one as well. So yeah, they're Hibs. If you want to make me look like a fucking dafty, then yeah, let's make that
I
work.
did see that thing that was going about Twitter today, and I thought it was quite generous to have us in the £30 tier list or something like that.
30 million, mate.
I'm still trying to figure out who he was taking shots at by putting us on the same line as DPT. Like, was that a shot at DPT or a shot at us? I don't know.
Oh dear, right, boys. I think we spoke about. No, actually, I've got a question for you, right? I do sort of want to. I think I've got a rough idea, but would like to know where you are at. There's Kensell out all over the place just now. There's a graphic that's came from my level of graphics on Adobe where it just says what you need. There's nothing else to it. It just says Kensell out. Do we need to change the person ultimately in charge of running the day-to-day of the club? Whoever wants to come in first.
I just think there's so many people in senior positions that we don't really know what they do. Like, from my perspective, I think Kensell, in his own way, cares about the club. I don't dispute that, but I think he wants to be involved in areas that he's not got expertise. So I'm not 100% like I want Kensell out the club. I just want Kensell to stop touching the football side of it. Like, if he's supposedly the one that's like part of the reason why the marketing side of things has went so well, then just leave him to do non-footballing things at the club. Like, I don't normally like to advocate for sacking people from their jobs, but from my perspective, his track record for managers is stunk. As much as I liked him as a person and Brian McDermott, from what we've seen, he didn't do a particularly good job in his recruitment role. Obviously, jury's out on Malky Mackay on that, but everything he touches in terms of the first team football is underwhelming. Like, that's just kind of the case for me. So I don't necessarily want him gone and banished from the club, but I don't want him to continue if his role is directly impacting first team football, then I don't want him to be doing that. That's probably a cop out, but I'm just trying to say
cop out.
I think that I
Huge
think
cop out.
that there probably is some things that he's done positive at the club, but I think he isn't competent at the football side of things. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I just don't think it's acceptable to have a CEO who's not competent at what 75% of the job's all about. In all honesty, it's the most important aspect of the job. Like, we can get a much cheaper bar manager for 375k a year. To be honest, I'm at a loss of words, to be honest, to describe how I feel about leadership at the club. Change is needed. It's just it's as simple as that. Change is needed. And I don't. I'm at that kind of stage now where I'm not quite apathetic yet, because I've still got a bit of anger from the game yesterday. I'm angry at the unpreparedness of our squad and our team to go into the first league game of the season. I'm angry at the arrogance from leadership at the club and their comments and their statements. I feel really uncomfortable hounding someone out of a job, but ultimately, his salary was published in the last year's accounts, £375,000 a year. I mean,
Eye watering
it's
that.
a lot of money for someone who, let's be honest, I mean, has he fronted up through any of this?
No.
Like with Leanne Dempster, who did not take home that level of salary. Leanne Dempster, if what has transpired through the summer Leanne Dempster would have done a sit down with, at the very least, Hibs TV and probably broadsheet media, and actually talk through what we were doing and what our plan was and what our strategy and how we were going to dig ourselves out of it. He would rather take softball questions or no questions at all.
I just missed the big Kensell that referred to the blue side of Glasgow. You know, when he was just a young free spirit and came in and done what he wanted. Not joking. Craig, do you align more with Harry there or Liam?
Liam, definitely. To be honest, I'm usually quite nice and icy and happy clapper on a lot of things Hibs, but it's a piss take, to be honest. At the moment, it's difficult not to get bedwetty like somewhere in group chats last night, because it's getting to that stage where it's, come on, something needs to change here. It's been going on far too many years. We're going round in circles. It seems that we're doing reviews here and there. Something needs to change.
Mm-hmm. I think the one person that's maybe his name's not been mentioned maybe as much as some people might think he should, and it's a difficult one, but it is Ian Gordon as ultimately the sort of, I'm assuming, owner, or his family are the owners, and also the chairman. Like, it's horrible, but obviously since the ownership model changed a couple of years ago, there has obviously been a decline since then as well. Not even just since sort of Kensell came in. You know, like that season we still finished sort of in 5th place, and we sort of managed to get there or thereabouts, and then ultimately made an arse of it again. Like, does anyone think that there should be more criticism going even above Ben Kensell, or does it just get to the point where how do you criticise the physical owners, as you know they are the majority shareholders? It is their business at the end of the day.
I think it's quite difficult to know who to criticise at this stage. I think there's a lot of smoke and mirrors and big technical terms being given to people at the club to sort of hide what the true kind of role. I'm trying to avoid using the word process, but what the process is, what the hierarchy is. Who do we blame? You know, people have been given, like I said, big, massive, wordy titles to their jobs that really hide the true job that they're doing, the role that they're in. So it's kind of like, well, who do you blame? And I think ultimately you have to look at Kensell, because he's the guy in the position. Since he's come in, the football inside, we're not even going to talk about the hospitality and all that. The football inside has been massively underachieving.
Yep.
For a club the size of Hibs. We should be aiming, not saying we should be finishing third of the season, but we should be aiming to finish third. And even in the season that we finished 5th, we were miles off it for the majority of the season.
Yeah.
Never
Miles
been
off
even
it.
in the race in any of the 3 seasons. Not even in the
So
race for a third. Never
we,
mind
we
being
should be challenging for that every single season, and at least hoping to get fourth or fifth at very least, but like a strong fifth.
Aye, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And we're miles off it. And this season at the moment is looking no different unless, like Liam said earlier, unless things drastically change. It's concerning.
Mhm. No, that's
keep coming back to it when we talk about sporting performance as well, but our performance in the cups has been drastically worse than it was for the 3 years previous as well. And like, you know, I know a lot of the cups is about luck of the draw and stuff, but also a lot of it's not. A lot of it's about just winning your fucking ties and not losing to League One shite when you're playing in the competition. Uh, Cup performance is a massive driver of income as well for the club.
well, I mean, I know not to. I feel like we're focusing a lot so far on, you know, we're talking about all we care about is the football side and doing everything except talking about it. But as we've been led to believe again, unless these have changed, the club budgets for European football and semi-final of both cups every year. Unfortunately, the likelihood is that we will not be reaching Hampden in the League Cup unless we go to Celtic Park and do something we've not done since 2010. Is that correct? Like, I don't want to be too downbeat about that, but you know, straight away that makes Hampden a very unrealistic proposition there. And what is the most achievable route to get it ultimately? And like Liam says, it comes down to losing to a League One side. How much blame did the board take for that? You know, you can decide. But will we start talking about some football here, or at least some more football related stuff? Would that make everyone a little bit happier? So one of the sort of main other topics that we came in, the sort of transitions in between the board and was recruitment, and sort of what is the budget that Hibs have for the rest of the window, and what do we need to do between now and the window closing at the end of the month. There's been various rumours over the last 24 hours or so around Kieran Bowie and Luke McCowan. I think there was a journalist saying we've had a bid rejected for Luke McCowan this afternoon. Forgive me, a player from Wolves on loan whose name escapes me. I don't know if.
Joe Hodge.
And yes, sorry, perfect. And then I don't think I've seen anything else. Would they three players and so two midfielders and another forward option?
Did you mention Senior Hoylett?
Oh no, I did not. Sorry, Junior Hoylett as well. So two forward players and two midfielders is what's been mentioned over the last couple of days. Is that, Harry, what we need to do in the window? Is that enough to get Hibs being able to compete for top six and where we want to be?
Who are the two midfielders, sorry?
McCowan and Hodge.
McCowan, good. Hodge, no idea. I'm liking the Senior Hoyle, and I like how you're committing to the bit with that, Liam. That's good content. He had an okay stint at Aberdeen against crap teams. And then who was the striker, other forward?
Kieran Bowie, Scotland under-21 international.
If it's no permanent, I'm not interested. I don't want us to have another like. Realistically, what we learned at the weekend, as I said to you guys quite softly, but I'm going to go all in, the midfield's shite. The midfield is nowhere near good enough. Josh Campbell, Player of the Year, I'm sorry to say, was a terrible shout. He's shown time and time again that he will have good spells, and I'm confident he will have good spells this season. He's never shown consistency for more than a month, like throughout his whole career. Joe Newell, I don't think he was as bad as a lot of people were making out. I don't actually think that was one of his worst games. But Nathan Mariah Welsh just kind of subtly went from when he first joined being a very good player to very, very consistently poor. Like, and the thing is, with the players we've got, we need, in the formation that Gray wants to play, we need to be good off the ball. We're shocking off the ball. Like, as I say, second half, St. Mirren walked through us. Like, St. Mirren didn't try. They just eased up the pitch. And if we're talking about midfielders as well, Amos can't play for Hibs again. I don't know if he needs a loan out to League One so he can actually like try and get some good passes out, but he gave away 2 goals yesterday, and I just can't believe how bad our midfield options are. I know he wasn't the sole cause of it, but he completely disrupted the flow when we were moving forward, and it was embarrassing. And Levitt, I thought had such a hard time last season. He got stuck in the midfield too because Montgomery wouldn't let him play anywhere else, and Amos is playing ahead of him. I just think, yeah, I think we need a proper box-to-box midfielder if we're trying to play with high energy. I'm worried about the midfield. That's my main concern. The midfield's just a massive sticking worrying point for me. It's the same midfield that failed us last season, and it's not dissimilar from the midfield that failed us the 2 seasons before. We just need change, and we needed it at the start of the summer. If we get a 6, I think it'll help a bit. But yeah, it worries me. I don't know if that answered your question or not, but I'm worried about the midfield and I need to get it off the
Well,
chest. So there you go.
I do have a retort to
Go for it.
Harry's point, but I would like first, before we then have to do a huge look back, just to get Craig and Liam's thoughts on the players mentioned. I think Liam, your thoughts probably on Hoylett are quite evident from your new nickname. But where are you if they 4 players come in? Does that increase your comfort level?
No, I'm not going to be all ageist about Junior Hoylett. I just think it's just a really strange signing when we've talked about averaging the lowering the average age of the squad. I think it's a very,
That was
very
a
strange
couple of
signing to sign a
processes.
34-year-old winger who's been injured a fair bit. Odd signing, to be honest. Plays left wing as well, predominantly, where you've got Yuan and Molotnikov. So unless Yuan's finally got a buyer and we're able to move him on, it's an odd signing. I think it's just a really sad indictment of where we're at, that we're played the first league game of the season and we're talking about doing major surgery at the squad by signing 4 players who are potentially starters. I mean, you don't, I'm sorry, but well-run football clubs aren't trying to make 4 signings on the 5th of August.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Craig, maybe just from a footballing point of view, do any of the 4 names get you excited?
McCowan maybe a wee bit. I don't really know too much about the other guys, to be honest. I was saying that to you guys at the game yesterday, that I don't really know much about Bowie. Liam seems to sort of be quite excited by the prospect of that one. So, yeah, Hoylett, I take him or leave him one. And then the Joe Hodge seems like he could. You say all this stuff. This guy could be rubbish. This guy could be great. At the end of the day, you don't know until they come in. But on the just the base outlook of it, it's a loan, a young player loan from England, in a position where we need sort of strength, leadership, a bit of the dark side of the game. And I would be surprised. He might turn out to have all that, but I'd be surprised if a young guy like that's going to have that in the Scottish Premiership. But we'll wait to see, I suppose.
Yeah. So, I think you're absolutely correct, by the way, and I think it's just I don't like the sounds of bringing a midfielder in on loan. It's not, especially if they're coming in to be a starter. But again, hey, it's another player that before the Black Knights investment we wouldn't have been able to bring in. However, I don't actually think our biggest need is in midfield, and this is where I would disagree with Harry. I still think the midfield is decent. It could have done with an addition or 2, maybe. It probably could. We need goals. Ultimately, we need goals. The reason, not the sole reason, but I was looking at it earlier, and any time we've sort of finished in the top 6 since we've been promoted again, we've had 1, if not 2 players that have hit double figures goals in the campaign. In the seasons in which we haven't finished in the top 6, we've not had a player in double figures. I know that sounds pretty straightforward, but you look at, for instance, Hearts with Shankland, his goals alone almost guarantee that they will be there or thereabouts. Even if they suffer in other areas of the park, goals will get you far. And ultimately, I look at the team that finished 3rd under Jack Ross. The 2 mainstays of that midfield were Joe Newell and Alex Gogic. One of these players is still at the club, who some people believe isn't good enough, and Alex Gogic isn't necessarily a player that we think would, regularly get you competing to finish 3rd in the league. They were then supplemented by Stevie Malin, Melker Hallberg, and Jackson Irvine in the second half of that season. So what my point is, I think it's easy to criticise the midfield. I think it's but you've got to look at what's going on around them. Had Hibs scored one of numerous chances yesterday, the game would have went in a different way. Had Dylan Venti managed to score from 3 yards out, we would have been 1-0 up. Had Martin Boyle done better with his chance 1-on-1 pretty much straight after St Mirren scored, it would have been 1-1. I don't believe that it's the midfield's fault that we lost the game yesterday. I thought we competed well in the first half away against St Mirren. I said to you guys at halftime, I thought The second half was poor, but I just think we need goals. I totally disagree with saying the midfield's what needs surgery. We spent however I don't eight hundreds of thousands of pounds last year on a number 9 that is just doesn't look like he can score goals now, and he doesn't offer anything else. And we need a striker that's going to bag goals, and relying on someone that you signed 24 hours before who's hardly kicked a ball for a year in the first game of your season to come on and do that's an absolute disaster. I just think that the number one priority has to be goals.
Just attacking players full stop. I mean, Milotnikov looked like he was potentially injured, certainly struggling. I mean, the fact he walked so slowly off the park at 1-0 down probably tells you that he was injured. And then we brought on a right back to play on the right wing because we didn't fancy our left-sided attacking option to come on and play. I mean, I didn't fancy our left-sided attacking option to come on and play either. By the way, it's not just I've seen enough of that. I just attacking players full stop. We're short quality in that area. Take Kelly Yuan out that team, and to be honest, there's not really many guys that are capable of doing something off the cuff, something a bit different, like Adowu did for St Mirren yesterday, which is incredible given the money that we spent. We've not got someone capable of just cutting inside and taking a shot. That's where we're at.
This was such a unfounded belief of mine, but do we have anyone in the team that would actually have just hit that shot like that? Like just fucking smash it, as opposed
probably Milotnikov, to be honest, because he was trying. Milotnikov probably.
Because like the chances.
He looked like the one that had belief yesterday, to be honest.
Everyone's passed at the goal, and it just for me, and Harry, you could be absolutely right, and as the season progresses, but we need goal scorers. You can't. When Venti first came in, we were all really excited, and he looked a great prospect. But in this league, especially as a lone striker, he's not physical enough to make it difficult enough for centre backs and bring other players in. He's not fast enough to run in behind, and right now looks so short of confidence in front of goal that he's not going to get the goals that you need to, make him worthwhile in the team for not doing the other things. You talk about, can you carry Josh Campbell or not as a goal threat or not if he's not offering enough in the middle of the park? Well, Dylan Venti, if he's not scoring, is unfortunately not really offering you much other than I'm running about and trying to press, which he came out in the summer and said he doesn't want to do, and it doesn't get the best out of him. Like, it has to be. And I think Bowie's would be a good signing, but he's more of a sort of wide forward, as my understanding is, than an out-and-out number 9. And obviously we have signed Kukurevich, but are we hanging our hat on someone that only managed 15 league games here 2 years ago and last season made, was it 10 appearances for Swansea? I think he was only injured for 10 games, but it was still a fifth of their games. It still would translate to 8 league games that he'd be unavailable for, and that is still a chunky time. It's a shocking position to be in, and I feel like you look around the league and like Aberdeen have a Miofsky, and then they've got Sockler that looks okay in behind them. Hearts don't really have that depth behind Shankland, but they still got Vargas. Like Dundee have got Simon Murray, Curtis Main, and the boy that scored yesterday. They're not fantastic football players, but they're players that have showed that they can hit anywhere from 8 to 15 goals in this league. And I just think we're so glaringly lacking in that position, and it doesn't make any sense to me that it's managed to go so long to be addressed. And I've seen so much talk about the midfield, but it has to be forward additions, have to be the priority. I don't know if that seems excessive to use, but it's ridiculous. Why did we finish 5th under Lee Johnson? Because Kevin Nisbet got fit and went on a fucking tear. Goals, like it is, I know you can get carried by a team in this league if you get the player. Ran over. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think I think two things can be true at once. I agree that Venti's not been anywhere near good enough since the first game. Yeah, no, but that's the thing. Like for my money so far, based off the one league game we've seen, which is obviously a very small sample size, our best centre back by a country mile is playing out of position. Like, I don't understand why we can't sign a left-footed centre back. It's literally beyond the point of it being a joke, and like, there's no balance in the team. How many left-footed players did we actually start at the weekend?
Newell, the keeper's left-footed. Does he count? I noticed that.
Obita.
Are we going to mention Obita? If he plays like that again, I'm going to be very worried because he was an absolute train wreck.
Just looked
chasing back. I can't remember if it was second or the third goal, man. He honestly, like, he looked like my old dear run going out for a 5K. Like, genuinely, it was pathetic.
He did. He started slow last year as well. He looked really. I know he came on. He didn't start the season last year, but obviously, and he came on. Was it Motherwell away? He came on at left midfield, and he just was. He looked much the same as he did yesterday, but he was poor yesterday. He was very poor. Just looked. It's easy to say it, but he just looked leggy and unfit. You know, he didn't look ready for it.
Aye. I'm not, and I'll stop there because I've probably been a bit. I don't like to just call it individuals and throw them under the bus. I think as a collective we were very shit, and a lot of players played very shit. But realistically, part of the worry as well is I know you disagree with it, Ewan, but I just think, especially in the summer window, you don't sign your first priority in August. You don't sign your second priority in August. I think we're at the third tier, and for my money, for us to have a good rest of the window, we need to get lucky. Luck is literally what determines whether Hibs can have a good season or not. And I know you guys think it's being very dramatic, but on the basis of what we saw there and the amount of games that we went to, and we were like, oh, if we could have just taken that chance, because we said that at least 10 times under Montgomery.
That's fair.
Like, I'm not being dramatic.
That's
we could
fair.
find ourselves fighting at the bottom of the table. Like, it could be that bad.
That was Michael
If we sign
Stewart's
some
prediction,
players,
eh?
if
And
we
Matt
sign some
Wilson.
players, I think it'll be fine. But if we don't make any signings, it could be a very worrying season.
I agree because we'll not have goals. But we'll not have goals. I still think the two centre halves will come good, right? I think they will. I think it's still new in a partnership. I thought Ekpiteta 6 out of 10 yesterday until if you take the goal out of it, like I thought it was all right.
Right.
You know, like if you take because it's such a it's just a mistake. You know, he has just underhit a pass. You know, it's not like he's been, you know what I mean? Like it's not necessarily, you wouldn't expect that to happen every week. You know what I mean? Do you know what
He's
I'm
not
saying?
underhit it though. He just never should have passed it.
No, no.
I know.
Wasn't he
I
underhit?
just
It's just a really bad decision, and it was. Let's be honest. I mean, there was other things that were flashpoints, didn't lead to a goal. I'm getting caught under the ball. I'm not judging the flight of the ball that time.
gets the benefit
Got
of the
bullied a
doubt.
couple of times by Ayunga, Olasanya. I know where you're coming from. And we're micro analysing because of a bad team performance, one individual performance, which probably wouldn't get that level of micro analysis had we not lost the game. But the fact is, we did lose the game. So the scrutiny then is greater than it would be. The centre halves will be the centre halves. They need better protection, is what I would say, first and foremost. They need a proper number 6. And we've been crawling for this for over a year. If our answer to the number 6 issue is sign a 21-year-old on loan from Wolves for a year, because there's going to be no permanent option on him. He's highly rated by Wolves, so on loan for a year. There's another stopgap in our sort of window of stopgap signings to follow up the previous window of stopgap signings. That's fine if he's brilliant. But if he's not, we're straight back at square one again. And the two centre halves have got virtually zero protection with what's in front of them. I really despair at going out, and it's back to that fucking old analogy, man. It's like we're again doing this thing where we're buying a fresh set of curtains when the ceiling's leaking. You know, it makes absolutely no sense. You've got to get someone in there to protect the two centre halves. And the two centre halves individually might be fine. We just don't know. I like the look of O'Hora so far. Ekpiteta, as with all new signings, the jury's out.
Can I just throw two positives, since it's felt like a shower of negativity for the right reasons? I feel very confident in the keeper. I think the way he collects crosses and gets to corners, I think was good. I don't think he could have done anything for the goals, to be honest. I think he would. What goal could he have done anything for?
No. I said I don't know. I agree with you around these. Coming for especially in the first half, he came for a couple of crosses and stuff. Probably stuff you would expect him to, but it was a nice change. But I don't know, the second and third goals, I don't know, like they never really went right in the bottom corner. They never flew in the net. The first one
Didn't make a save. Didn't make a fucking save.
Literally 3 shots on target, 3 goals. Like, and that
I don't know how you can judge it negatively or positively. They've only done a save.
I think we've had so many keepers that have not had any form of well, obviously he needs to start making saves, but I just think his all-round game so far in all the games we've seen him has looked pretty good. And then I think the positive we can still agree on
I'm going to stop you there, right? Because last night you said Ekpiteta is utter shite. He had one good game against Elgin. Bursic has played against Elgin, and then he missed the game against Kelty,
Uh-huh.
and then he missed the next game, and then he played yesterday, and he shipped 3 goals.
Have you
Can
got,
we
have you
get
got a
some
point there, Ewan?
consistency here, please?
As
saying
I
that
said, I
all-
don't think
in
he was
all the
responsible
games
for
we've
any
seen him-
goals. I think he's, as I just said, I don't think that goalkeeper's an issue. That was my positive there, because I think that
Alright.
last year, by the time we were at this stage, we all wanted Marshall out. Whereas this year, I don't have a worry that we've got. I think we've got a number 1 for the season. I'm not worried about that. That was my point. And my second point that we can all agree on, I'm hopeful we can all agree on. Molotnikov still looked competent in a Premier League game. I
Absolutely.
still worry just because he's young that I don't think it's fair to put responsibility on him for the whole season. And I do hope that we get a winger that can kind of help split minutes with him, or Yuan can when he's back fit. But yeah, I'm just glad that Molotnikov
100%.
still didn't look out of place when he played there.
It's why I'm completely against the senior Hoylett signing, because he's ultimately going to be competing for that same position. I would rather, to be honest, right now we're playing Molotnikov based on League Cup games in St Mirren, which might come across as reactionary, but his response to giving the ball away yesterday, he got crowded out by 2 players, and his response yesterday showed so much tenacity to get back up on his feet and try and get the ball back, which is a micro example, but there were lots of good examples of things he did on the ball yesterday. He set up Venti for that chance.
The keeper made a
I
great
think he's
save for an own
kind of
goal.
unlucky with that shot as well. Aye, exactly. And like, if we're going to be signing another, let's be honest, another guy who is a short-term signing, take another 18-year-old's minutes, again, that just comes back to our lack of strategy.
Yeah, and I think it's worth pointing out, like, he's probably not going to come up against a more physical fullback this season. I can't think, like, Rooney's maybe not. I don't think he's the best right back in the league, but in terms of just physicality, like, and like if Molotnikov wasn't up to it, he could have very easily got shrugged off the ball. Sort of, Rooney could have looked what he done to Josh Doig. You know what I mean? Like, on numerous occasions, and like I think it was promising for Molotnikov yesterday. So
Same against Cammy Kerr, by the way, when he played against Queen's Park, one of the most physically dominant fullbacks in Scotland. Not the best by any stretch of imagination, but similar build to Rooney, and I thought he got the better of him time and time again in that game. I think the future's so bright for him. I just hope that we don't stifle his development by crowding that position out.
Yep. When it's a centre forward, we need. That's what we need. They need wingers. Look, let's move on, right? Can I deny that there's been comments come in already, and when we asked for talking points and questions around David Gray, maybe more so about the general appointment than anything he done or didn't do yesterday. But I know that I think all 4 of us shared some frustration with the subs and who came on and whatnot. Harry, you mentioned Dylan Levitt earlier. Was he one that you felt the game that he really could have come on and impacted?
I just think that if you've watched pre-season so far, I just don't see any world in which you would put Amos on the pitch over Levitt. Like, it might be that Amos just needs to catch up with fitness, and maybe in a couple of months' time he'll look brand new. But based off what we've seen in the last 4 or 5 games, he's just not looked up to it at all. Like, he got bullied off the ball several times against Kelty. Levitt, I think's actually looked pretty sharp this preseason, and I know there was times that he got accused of laziness, but for me, 4-4-2, being being in the middle of a 4-4-2 in Scottish football, like, Levitt's just not built for that. That's not his game. So last year he probably did get exposed, but I think in a 4-3-3 where he's not having to do as much of the legwork as you have to do in a 4-4-2, I think that he can actually get his game going. So for me, that was really confusing. And on David Gray himself, like, I said it when we had one of our episodes when we were talking about what managers we wanted. My worries with David Gray is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's the only games in management he's had is Hibs, like as a caretaker. Like, he's never done the under 23s or anything, has he?
No.
And in terms of the staff that's with him, Liam Craig, is this his first actual like assistant manager role? Because I know he was a coach and stuff previously, but for me, like, it's not David Gray's fault, and I love David Gray, but what basis do we have that he's going to come and be a good manager? Like, and then obviously the recruitment's been terrible. The club seems like it's a shambles from the top down. David Gray, it's like this whole Sozzy thing all over again. He's been absolutely shafted from second one. And like, no offense to David Gray, but I'm not going into this game at the weekend against Celtic thinking we're going to get a result. Then after that, we're playing Celtic at Celtic Park. Then we've got a tricky Dundee game. Like, we could easily be on about a 5-game losing streak before anything comes good this season. Now, again, like, it's just circumstances, but I'm just worried for him. Like, as I said, like, nothing that happens, if we end up losing our next 10 games and he gets sacked, that's not going to tarnish his reputation for me. But I'm just worried. Like, there's nothing, and again, nothing against him. I hope that I have egg on my face and he proves me wrong. But there's nothing so far that I've seen that shows me that David Gray is going to be the type of manager that can make us finish third. And sorry if that seems really harsh.
Nah, it's just really reactionary, to be honest, mate, because we're literally just sat lambasting the club and their unpreparedness for the season, and you're now apportioning a lot of that blame on the manager. You can't honestly make an assessment on whether a manager is good enough to get you third the following season after one league game. You can't. Like, no one can make that assessment. No one's qualified to say that guy won't get us to third because you've watched one league game and 4 games in the League Cup.
But what have you seen that could even show that we're going to finish top 6?
There's not enough games, mate. There's not been enough games. There's not been enough games for me to really make a call on where we're going to finish the league season. You can predict. You can't make an assessment on where you're going to finish the league season after one league game. You can't.
Harry, I think there's a couple of things, right? I think he will, whatever your thoughts are on the game yesterday, I think in general we have looked more physically robust in general across the League Cup games, and I would include yesterday in that as well. Like, I don't think that we got bullied as such yesterday. I just think we got beat. Like, and as well, his hands are tied. I think he has been. Look, the Black Knights report, or the same, they didn't think David Gray was the right man. The board did, or whatever. And look, maybe I'm glad that they never listened to them, because obviously I wanted David Gray to be the Hibs manager, and I won't go back on that. But what worries me, and it's exactly what you said, Harry, is he has been set up to fail. It feels like to me right now, and as a fan base, I would hope that people can sort of see that. They can see that he's working with he is blaming his tools. He's a bad workman, but his players are not adequate. The makeup of the squad isn't adequate. He's made it clear that he wants players in over the last week or so. Like, I just think that he will do a good job because I want him to do a good job. It's the same. Ultimately, it's the same with every manager.
But just another point as well that, like, it just sticks in my head in terms of the people that he's been at, like Jack Ross. I think that's a good person to learn from. Obviously, had a really good time here. Sean Maloney. It just doesn't inspire me as the type of person that'll be able to, like, you'll be able to pick up much from. Lee Johnson, again, same boat. And Nick Montgomery, like, he's not had anybody that I think's a really good, like, obviously he's
a
like
player under David Moyes, came through at Man United under Celtic. None of these things are indicators of whether or not you're going to be a good manager.
I just think the experience is such a massive, and Hibs is a massive club. Like,
Lee Johnson had 500 games of management.
Experience.
Yeah, and shit level. But the thing is, for me, like I just think that it feels, obviously, as Liam says, reactionary and all that fun stuff, but it just feels like right person, wrong time. Like, why couldn't he have taken over the young team? Why couldn't we give him a year doing that?
I have a young team.
Or doing anything, like
get him another good
project manager.
Just bounce games, man. Like, it doesn't prepare you for real life management. There's nothing on the line. You're just playing bounce games to effectively give an AI an opportunity to develop that.
So
how many
what's the base?
What's
the baseline
successfully make the transition for managing an under 23s or an under 18s team to becoming first team manager and being successful? Virtually none, because they usually then specialize in youth development. I don't think that's a valid argument, to be honest. Like, every rookie manager needs to start. So your argument could be, he should have gone to another club first before he came to Hibs. So he should have gone to, I don't know, Cowdenbeath, and because that's been a really successful path for us to get managers from Cowdenbeath, right? What if he goes to Cowdenbeath and flops? Well, then he's never going to get the Hibs job. Like, he's in-house, he's in a position where he knows the squad. There were so many advantages to him getting that job. I'm not saying it's the right decision, but I think to say that it's just not going to work out because you've watched one league game, I don't know how you can make that assessment.
I said that the one league game compounded the fears that I had. Like,
as I say, you couldn't see them getting third because you'd watched one league game against St Mirren. ever. I mean, I just don't know how you can make that assessment.
Craig, I'm going to
I
ask
think
you
it-
again. Harry or Liam? Craig, sorry. Who are you leaning towards here, Harry or Liam?
Uh, probably Liam, to be fair. Sorry, Harry, but
That's all right.
but for me, like a manager at Hibs, I don't think it's that difficult to get into that top six ultimately, and I think a lot of what Hibs will do this season and have done in previous season is determined on recruitment. A manager in this league, for the most part, I would say, is massively either sort of influenced by how good a recruitment setup is, and ultimately at Hibs it's been a shambles the last couple of years, and I think that's largely why a lot of these managers that we've had have failed, is because the players are not good enough. The players aren't good enough, whether that be the starting 11 or whether that be the depth. I think on Sunday yesterday it showed that the starting 11 in the first half was okay. We go 1-0 down, and I just feel like we have nothing to impact the game with, and that is down to recruitment.
Mhm.
And I feel like David Gray is going to get thrown under the bus unless anything changes here, and I don't really think it can be pinned down to a manager's fault. It's the recruitment. We have to get better players, and if we get better players, ultimately it's not that difficult to get fifth. You just need to win your easier games. Easier, I say, because we are one of the easy games at the moment. But win these games that a football club like Hibs should be winning, and you get into
No.
that top six. It really isn't that difficult, and we just it sounds so obvious and sort of stupid to say, but the players that we've got just aren't good enough, and David Gray has been shafted. To be fair, at the moment, as things stand, he's gone into the season with an unprepared squad that's really isn't good enough, and that was kind of highlighted yesterday with a team as well, for whatever reason, that looked leggy, despite the fact that they're against a team that played sort of 3 days earlier.
Mhm.
So a bit confused with that one, but
Harry, what would?
Even if,
Oh, sorry, you go, Liam.
no, I was just going to say, even if we do get the players in, like we're like we're potentially talking about guys that aren't match fit, not match sharp. So it's going to take them weeks to get up to speed. So you're giving away like the first 5, 6 of the games of the season. Are we all going to give David Gray the good faith to say, those first 6 games of the season we're going to write them off because he didn't have the players he wanted available to them? Or are we just going to write off until next year when he gets the squad together that he wants? Because apparently Malky Mackay needs a year to fix this mess. So we're just going to give him a year of good grace to be all just disband any criticism of the manager for a year, like we did with Nick Montgomery when we were going to give him time. For a manager to be successful, you need to take away all the possible excuses that manager can have for not succeeding. At the moment, David Gray has got a litany of excuses at his disposal because he's not been supported in the way that he should have been. And it will be the same, even if we go and sign 4 or 5 players this week, it'll be exactly the same. We run up to September. You've not had the opportunity to work with them, not had the pre-season, not had them a chance for them to adapt to our style of play. All those things.
Harry, what does David Gray need to do this Sunday to get you a little bit more not on board, and that's not the right word, but just what can he what does he need to set his team up like, or what do you need to see from the players that he does have available against Celtic on Sunday?
I just I probably didn't convey what I meant to say in the right way, but I just can't see us getting to having played the Rangers game. I reckon by that point, at most.
And is that the
So
fifth game
that's
of the
that.
season?
So essentially, the upcoming games is Celtic, Dundee home, Kilmarnock away, St Johnstone home, Rangers away.
Okay.
In my head, just based off the way we played, and I know we had some good performances in League Cup against lower position, but most of those teams we're expecting to be between the whole cluster of fourth to seventh, eighth. Those are the teams that we're obviously take away St Johnstone, they're pish. So I'm writing that as a win. I think there's a real chance that we're going into the range after the Rangers game, 6 games in, being bottom of the league. And for me personally, I'm happy to support Gray. I'm for Montgomery, I supported him as you guys did longer than most people. But I just know the way Hibs fans are. You see some numpties already on Twitter being like Gray out. I don't want Gray to fail. I'm just worried that he will, and I'm worried that because everything that you guys have outlined there, I'm worried that by the time things actually do start to click, we're going to be so far gone. The season's going to be done already. Like, I just think Gray, like, the main thing, I want Gray to be successful. That's what I really, really want. And I just don't see a way in which he is. Like, and what's the baseline for you guys? If we finish ninth in the league, like with the board that we've got, is he going to survive the season? And then if we get to next summer and we finish ninth in the league, are we going to go in with confidence that David Gray's the man to lead us forward? Like, I just think the volume of patience that we now need to have faith in this guy with nothing in the bag so far. Obviously, great player for the club, but nothing managerial in the bag for him. We are just putting blind faith in him to become good. And like,
We're putting blind faith
what...
in any manager you put in.
Yeah, no,
in
but
place.
like, but with
There's
other
blind
managers,
faith in every single manager.
If Bill Foley comes in and he gives us a director of football and a manager, then I think, okay, we've got an infrastructure. With David Gray, like, why didn't we appoint him 2 managers ago?
No, I get what you're saying,
I just like, I don't get why now, and I don't think that Gray's had someone to learn from him. Which I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm confident that he's going to take on this role, and he's got like so much great experience, and he's got so many like great minds that he can tap up. I might be completely off on it, and I would love nothing more than us to get to halfway through the season and used to be like, Harry, you're an absolute fanny, but everything just looks like it's going to go against him at the moment. And as I say, I don't want it to, but I'm just worried.
Yeah, but a lot of it's not because of him though.
Yeah,
this is what I'm struggling to understand the point that you're trying to make here, to be honest. And
so if we get to 10 games in and we've won 1 game and we've lost 9, that's not on Gray at all.
Nah, of course, but I mean, both things can be true. He can be a terrible manager, and the leadership at the board can be doing, the leadership at the club can be doing a bad job. Both things can be. No one's saying that both things can't be true. But you isolated Gray. This was a conversation about David Gray. This wasn't a conversation about the leadership at the club.
Yeah, but with David Gray, he's going to be the man in the dugout. And regardless, like, if we had another manager in there, it could be different.
This is what I was going to say. This is the way. So, do you think, Harry, had we appointed Derek
different
McInnes,
than any of the last 5 managers we've had?
Like, no, but I'm just trying to understand. So, had we appointed Derek McInnes, Harry, for argument's sake, and we had signed the same players we had signed, would you think, you know, are you saying you think you would maybe scrape a few more results, meaning that by the time, if the potential, the likelihood is we will sign players, we might be in a better position? Is that more your concern, that you think we've got a rookie manager who's been dealt a bad hand, and does he have the experience behind him to sort of get us through that initial pain, be that 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, or a full season, to then develop into the side that we want? Is that sort of where you're coming from with it?
Yeah, and in short, if Derek McInnes was the manager, I think we'd be in a better position now than we are.
I don't know. I don't know, like, because the guy's above the exact same, and they shaft him probably exactly the same as they've shafted Gray.
As I said,
I'd just like to make it clear, right? And I'm gonna, you can all hold me to this. I'm not going to ask for David Gray to lose his job once this season. And if it gets to any point that I do that, then you can all fucking call me out for everything. But I think, right, if I'm being totally honest, I think the board appointed David Gray, and this is maybe a very cynical view on it. I think they appointed him thinking it'll buy them time and it'll get people on board and it was safe. But I think it could potentially be the worst thing they've done. Because if they then don't back this guy and they don't get him the players he needs, and they don't, especially on the back of the investment and the way they spoke about that in the early part of 2024, but I think they've thought, you know, he can get us through this year. They'll be happy enough. It's, you know, we've got the club legend in place, blah, blah, blah. But I think you've already seen it. Because, by the way, if it was another manager, the fan base wouldn't be all going towards the board. A lot would be going to the manager. You know, look at Lee Johnson after the fucking Falkirk game in the League Cup. But I think the board will live to regret this appointment unless he does prove to be an unbelievable manager. Because even if they do get rid of him, it'll be the end of them, in my opinion. You know, if they get rid of him too quickly, that they'll be done, in my opinion. Especially if, like what Liam says, that, you know, the manager could come away from it with excuses for recruitment or whatever, and it's a mess. You've got a rookie manager who we all want to succeed, and I do think will, but massively under-equipped with the playing staff that he's got at his disposal due to those above him, and due to 3 or 4 years of mismanagement, really. You know, this is all a byproduct of Jack Ross not getting the centre back he needed and the striker he needed or whatever, then getting rid of Jack Ross and bringing in Maloney. You know, David Gray has got the shittiest end of the shitty stick to try and work with right now, in my opinion. But I do think the majority of the fan base will see it through. And by the way, Harry, you said if we win 1 game in 10, will the fan base stick with him? I think they will. Genuinely. I think the frustrations would be entirely directed at the board still. Potentially, maybe I'm wrong, but that's where I'm at with it. Shall we look ahead to the Celtic game very quickly and wrap this up? Does anyone... Aye, we must. Does anyone have any hope that we could Paul Heckenbottom, Christian Doidge actually as an own goal shithouse our way to getting something out of this game on Sunday?
I do actually. It's probably nothing more than blind faith. We did it under Sean Maloney, where we just basically were suffocated for 90 minutes against an Ange Ball Celtic team. We actually managed to fashion a couple of chances in that game. I think that's a good example of probably roughly how I would expect us to set up. I think we'll go 3-5-2. I do think we could shithouse our way to something, but I think at this stage you'd have to say it looks unlikely we'll get anything from the next 2 games.
Yeah, I think we might. Maybe Kukarevich comes in and starts. You know, gives you a little bit more of a threat in behind, or it's just I don't know. We might. It's difficult. It is. Look, I'm not going to ask you all for predictions tonight. We'll save them for Sunday morning before the game when we're all feeling a lot more optimistic and I'm a lot more ready. And Hibs have signed 3 or 4 boys, and they've all played 120 minutes plus in pre-season. You know, they're ready to go. But Harry, do you have anything that you could add for the Celtic game for cause of optimism, or are you just no feeling?
No, I'm 100% predicting a Hibs win. Like I'm fully ready for you guys to be like, Harry, mind that big rant you had at the end of the last episode. Spin on that, you specky bastard. Like I cannot emphasize enough how much I want to be wrong and how much I want you to all give me a big give it up here next time we hop on the pod. Like that, at no point am I one of those people that's like, oh, I can't wait for David Gray to fail so I can say I was right. I want to be as wrong as anybody has ever been at anything. Just to confirm, I'm not rooting against Gray at all. I want to be so fucking wrong here. And of course I'm going to predict the win. I'm a blind bloody idiot when it comes to Hibs, and it could be one of those ones. You never know. Celtic do historically struggle at Easter Road. I don't know if that's a myth now. But yeah, we've got as much chance as the other 11 teams in the league when it comes against Celtic, and that's not very much. So I'm not even, as long as we don't get pumped. That's my thing. That'd make me happy. If we get beat by 3 or less, I won't be happy, but I'll be all right.
He's waiting for we're going to win it as long as we get beat 2-0.
Mate,
where do you land in the process of Hibs are winning to Hibs just didn't lose 3-0? What's your...
I have no idea where you guys have got that optimism from, to be honest. I'm sitting here, I've got images in my head of Ekpiteta on skates up against Kyogo and Matt O'Reilly, and that it's just absolutely giving me the fear, to be honest. Like, they have got so much firepower up front that we just didn't have, and I struggle. I really do struggle, to be honest, to see anything other than a pumping. At the moment, if you base it on the second half against St Mirren, then it could be the way we folded like a fucking deck chair against St Mirren. If we fold like that against Celtic, it'll be double figures by the time we get to the end of the game. But like, I think we just need to go out. I think we need to make it nasty. We need to be angry, and try and produce a bit of quality. Hopefully we've got 1 or 2 in the door by then that could make an impact of some sort. Because I think if we don't, then it could be, well, every time you play Celtic, you could get a pumping. But I think at the moment, the way things are going, it could be dangerous. Well, having said that, though, was it not last season?
Come on, Craig. What your way back round? What your way back round?
St Mirren, and then the next game we drew 1 each with Celtic, or we got beat 2-1 or something like that, and we played really well.
It was the start of the like mini little sort of are we getting our shit together?
It was Celtic got the 2 joke penalties. Celtic got those 2 joke penalties, and
it was 3-0 to St Mirren the game before, was it not?
It was. That genuinely that 3-0 home defeat versus St Mirren actually brings the weekend defeat into context, because that was a fucking whole lot worse. That was a whole lot worse last season. Like, yeah. I mean, I don't think we'll go. I genuinely don't think we'll get anything from the game, and I will probably by Sunday predict a Hibs win. But I do think that the old cliche about getting them early in the season, all that, just based on how they looked yesterday from the wee bits of highlights I've saw, I think we're going to have a really, really tough ask
You see them
on
against Man
Sunday.
City.
And that Kuhn boy looks
Some of the
fucking
goals.
absurd, eh? Jesus Christ, behave.
Right, we're not
No,
starting.
that's enough of that.
Aye. Right, that'll do us. We have rambled on here for the best part of an hour and 20 minutes. Boys, it's been a pleasure as ever discussing all things Hibernian FC. We'll be back next week. Hopefully with a couple of signings and a nice positive result as well. Go back to Easter Road for the first time in the league this season. Cheers! Bye!
Cheers.
Cheers.